dedicating our Torah class today to Refuah Shlema of Beruz ben Omayun and Lahavdo ben Chaim Chaya Chaim in memory of Edna Bat
Rosie Bat Manya.
Manya is the mother's name?
Yes.
What's the father's name?
Rahma.
And the Rosie Bat Rachma.
Gidon ben Avraham.
Gidon ben Avraham. Roch Shem Techem Magan Eden.
Amen.
Moshe ben Baruch.
Moshe ben Baruch. Chas Hashem. By the way, it's a school for a long life to make that mistake. I just want to let you know. Don't get scared by that. It's a school, it has in Svarim. When you make a mistake and you say something, Ilu Nishmat is still alive, it's a school for a Refuah Shlema.
Rabbi, you want to make a mistake on my name?
There's actually happened a crazy story. There were a group of guys who study Torah every morning, and one of them got very sick, and a friend of his decided that in order to have a skulah, that the guy should get better, he's going to post on the door of the synagogue that he died. He did that because he heard of this, that says, he read in this holy book that that's his skulah. It's a true story. So he put this on the door of the synagogue that Yankel died. And his funeral is at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's he wrote in the. Don't try this at home, folks. This is what he did. It worked. It worked. And this guy who was deathly ill got better. It was a miracle. But the next morning, everyone comes to the synagogue. They see that their friend Yankel died. Can you imagine? So they come to the synagogue. They're saying that, oh my gosh, Yankel was sick. He died. They all come to the synagogue and they're crying. They're waiting for the funeral, waiting for the hearse to come. Yankel himself comes at 10 o'clock to the synagogue.
That's great.
He felt like it was the resurrection of the dead. You can imagine.
Wow.
Speaking of the resurrection of the dead and Refuah Shlema, the 3rd of Sivan is a day when Hashem healed all those who were sick before the Torah was given. Anyone who was blind, anyone who was deaf, anyone who couldn't was lame. God healed everybody before the Torah was given. In a similar way, tonight is the 3rd of Sivan. All the world and all of our people need a Refuah Shlema. We all need the healing. We need the Mashiach to come. So a great blessing to do is to make a decision today to come on Monday to hear the 10 Commandments. Monday is going to be, it's our round 3rd anniversary.
Daytime.
It's our 3,333rd anniversary of receiving the Torah Mount Sinai, this coming Monday. There's no other nation in the world that could say anything even close to that. No one has anything even close to what we say about what we know. We believers, children of believers, and children of their children, and children of their children. Everyone else is in Wikipedia. The Romans are in Wikipedia, the Greeks are in Wikipedia, and we wrote Wikipedia. So this is really something very special. So God says in the Torah, if you come to the synagogue and hear the 10 Commandments, the day that He gave it to us, it is considered as if, not considered as if, God Himself is giving us the Torah on that day. And being in the synagogue is a tremendous, you're hearing God's voice. There's someone there, you're going to hear Eitan, read the Torah, Eitan, Eitan. It's really God speaking, and it's a special thing. Everyone should make a decision today to be there, and that itself is a blessing to
Nighttime or daytime?
We're going to have 2 in our synagogue. We're going to have 3. Make sure everyone can make it there. We're going to have 1 at 6 o'clock, 1 at 11:15, and 1 at 6 p.m. Make sure everyone is able to make it. What time are you coming for, Isaac? What time should I open up the red carpet for you?
9 p.m.
Monday, coming to hear the Torah reading, give you 3 options: 6 a.m., 11 a.m., or 6 p.m. Monday.
6 a.m. is an idea.
Okay.
6 a.m. you get the most people.
He's close to the shul.
Really?
You get the biggest crowd.
Ellie, what time are you coming? Where are you going? Where are you going to synagogue on Monday to hear the 10 Commandments? You got to go somewhere.
You tell me.
Where do you live again?
La Siena, the closest is La Cienega and Olympic.
Okay, come to us. Come to us, 8850 West Pico. You got to come to us. Come. 6 a.m., 11 a.m., or 6 p.m.
The times are pretty crazy.
So what's the reading?
10 Commandments.
Oh, really?
God's going to give us the Torah again, and we've got to be there when God gave us the Torah the first time. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said He couldn't give us the Torah until everybody was there. If one guy wasn't there, imagine that happening on Delta. Hi, I have this flight to catch, but my son's is finishing his lollipop. But Torah, God says every one of us has to be there before the flight takes off, and so it's a real great blessing. So I want to bring the blessing in now for all our brothers and sisters in Israel. Make a decision today. Eli, here, in order to schut everyone in Eretz Yisrael. We're not called up to fight like your dad was a pilot, right? He had to do his job. I'm asking you to join the Chel Avir, coming to Shamayim, join the synagogue and hear the Ten Commandments, and bring someone else with you. Bring someone else with you, either 6 a.m. or 11 or 6 p.m. to be there to hear Ten Commandments is a tremendous blessing, and we have also a great cheese. Now the question is, why do we always eat cheese and dairy on Shavuot? What is the meaning of it? And it sounds like just like a custom that people do, and it's not so important. It's very important, because everything the Torah says is important, but I'm not just saying it's important to do. I'm saying the idea behind it is very deep, and it has a lot of significance that you may have never heard of before. It's going to blow your mind. I'm going to blow your mind. Ready? Here we go. So one of the reasons we have dairy on the holiday of Shavuot is like this. When Moses was born, his parents had a very hard time trying to figure out what to do, because the Pharaoh had said that every Jewish boy had to be killed. So Moses was a preemie. He was born in the 7th month. So the Egyptians, they knew when Moses and Moses' father and mother remarried. Because after the Pharaoh had said that he's going to kill the Jewish boys, Moses' parents separated. And when Moses' parents separated, all Jewish men and women separated. Because they saw the leader of the Jewish people has decided to separate from his wife, it's time to separate. No point in bringing children in the world. But Moses' sister said to her father, "You're worse than the Pharaoh." What do you mean I'm worse than the Pharaoh? He says the Pharaoh only says to kill the Jewish boys. If you're going to stay away from marriage and family, there won't be any Jewish girls being born either. And because of her, Amram remarried Yocheved, and because of that Moses was born. So Moses was born 7 months later, and the Egyptians the day Moses was born on, the 7th day of Adar. And Moses' parents were concerned that the Pharaoh's policemen were coming around at the end of 9 months to check out if there's a baby born. They have to get rid of him, if they get him out of the house before the 9th month. That's why they put him in the basket on the Nile River. They put him in the basket because they knew the policemen were going to come around after 9 months. So then, when is the date of the 9th month after Moses was the conception of Moses? What day was he in the basket? He was in the basket, and the daughter of the Pharaoh, Batya, sees Moses in the water, and she famously stretches out her hand. Miraculously, her arm stretches many feet to get the baby basket in the river, which shows us a lot about stretching out your hand to do something and God helps you. But either way, she gets Moses, and Moses, because Moses was destined to speak to God, so none of the nursemaids, or whatever they're called, of the Pharaoh were able to nurse Moses. God caused that Moses would not want to nurse any of them. And so Miriam, who's watching this whole time, Moses' sister, she sees this whole thing, and she says, "I know why he's not nursing. See, he's Jewish. Jewish people only nurse from Jews. It's a thing that Jews have. A Jewish baby will only nurse from a Jewish mother. I know a woman who is Jewish. I can bring her here and he'll nurse from her." So they bring Moses' real mother, Yocheved. Yocheved was Moses' real mother. She comes. She nurses Moses. And that day that she nursed Moses was the same day that 80 years later, Moses was going to actually speak to God about Sinai and get the Torah. That 80 years later, that same day, it was the 6th day of Sivan, or that Moses was going to receive the Torah at Mount Sinai, and 80 years before, Moses is nursed from his mother, milk, and that is one of the reasons why we have milk on Shavuos, to commemorate that miracle of Moses being nursed by his mother. Another reason, many other reasons, but I want to go to the deepest reason. I want to go all the way in. I know you guys are busy, you have to get back to work, so I want to go all the way in to the deepest Kabbalistic reason of why we do this. So, there are many times that the angels came to God and they told God that you shouldn't pay attention to human beings. Human beings are just like low. We're pure, we're holy, your Torah is pure, your Torah is holy, give us the Torah. Give us the Torah. The Torah is life, we're alive. The Torah is pure, we're pure. The Torah is holy, we're pure. We're holy. Give us the Torah. God says, no, I'm going to give the Torah to human beings, to the Jewish people here in this world. And after he gives us the Torah, what happens 40 days later? After we see the Torah on Mount Sinai? Golden calf. So Moses goes back up the mountain, and God agrees to give the Jewish people a second chance, to give us the second tablets. Moses comes back up the mountain, and the angels say to God, whoa, giving them a second chance. They're giving them the Torah again. They just messed up on your Torah. You're going to give us the Torah. So God told the angels, you're always complaining about people and what people do, and people can't keep the Torah, and you're holy. I actually gave you guys a thing to do in the Torah, and you never did it. You went against the Torah. What do you mean, God? What are you talking about? God sent 3 angels to visit Avram, to visit Abraham. The Torah says when they visited Abraham, they ate dairy, and they ate meat together. So if they ate meat and dairy together, they went against the Torah. So the angels said to God, you know what? We got nothing to respond. They have nothing to respond, and the God gave us the Torah. That's the story the Talmud says. The story doesn't make any sense, though, for a couple of reasons. Number one, let's compare the transgressions over here. We prayed to the golden calf. That's a big one, right? Or they ate the meat and the milk together. Which one's worse?
The calf.
The calf is for sure worse. Number two,
Well, Avram served them meat and milk together?
why did Avram do that? That's another question.
They talk together.
So we'll get to that in a second. We're going to go to point.
They choose.
Number two, the issue of eating milk and meat together doesn't seem to exist in the story of Avram, because the Torah says that Avram bought them first milk and butter, whatever, and then he went to slaughter the cow. Slaughtering the cow takes time.
Yeah.
So first he served them, and they ate, and it must have waited many hours until they got the meat. Must have been at least an hour until the meat was served after they slaughtered a cow. It's not so simple. So what exactly is going on over here? In fact, the Torah says you're allowed to wash your mouth out. Maybe people wait an hour, they wait a half hour, but technically, the strict letter of the law, after you wash your mouth out and wash it out well and eat something else, you're allowed to eat meat afterwards. So to understand all this, what the meaning is of this discussion between God and the angels, and it must be deeper. It must be a deeper reason why this was the thing that proves that the Torah should be given to us. It must be something deeper about the story and how it expresses what the role is of our people in this world and receiving the Torah. It must be something deeper about this meat and milk thing. So let's get a little technical for a second. How does the meat and milk thing work? The halacha is that once you eat meat, you have to wait for 6 hours till you eat anything dairy. Why 6 hours? Why so much? So one explanation is because when you eat meat is a heavy taste. It lasts in your mouth for a long time. And therefore you have to wait 6 hours till the taste goes away. That's one opinion. Another opinion is, it's not the taste necessarily, it's that the meat it gets caught in the teeth. It gets caught in your teeth and it lasts in your teeth for a long time. And after 6 hours, it's not considered anymore to be food. So you have to wait 6 hours until so that's why even if you chew up food, let's say for a baby, you're chewing on you want your baby to eat it and you want to make it soft for them, you chew it in your mouth first. So according to Maimonides, he says that you still have to wait 6 hours. Or let's say you only swallowed it, but you didn't chew it. Still, according to Rashi, you have to wait 6 hours. Because either we are stringent, like both opinions, and no matter what you do, you wait 6 hours. Unless you tasted some cholent and you just put it in your mouth and you didn't chew on it and you spit it out, just to taste that the cholent's okay, so then you wouldn't have to wait 6 hours. But what's the meaning of this 6 hour thing? So the 6 hours are connected to the 6 characteristics, 6 soul characteristics that every person has. There are 6 soul energies. Not going to get into all of them today. Let's talk about 2. There is chesed and there is gvura. There are people of yes and people of no. There are people that right away that they are very free and quick to give compliments to other people. When you ask them for a favor, their default, spontaneous answer right away is yes. There are people like that. And there are other people, which are people of no, that their default spontaneous answer is no. The answer is no. And chesed, kindness, and love is about giving. And there's some people, they're born with a natural tendency to always give. And some people are born with a natural tendency to not to give. And it's not that they're bad people. It's that they're judgmental. Judgmental is not a bad thing. I know in our society, judgmental means a bad thing. I don't mean that in a bad way. Judgmental means that they're very discerning and they think carefully before they think about what exactly the other person needs. It's not just about what I want to do, it's about what the other person that I'm giving to needs. So the people of kindness, people of chesed, They're always very free to give compliments. They want other people to feel good. And there's a balance. And that there's a value in each one of these things. Some people which are too, they're too giving, and they lose themselves, and they don't know what they're doing. And some people are too stubborn. Some people there's a difference between hesitancy and ambivalence. There's a difference between being wishy-washy and being carefully discerning. So there has to be a blessing to really know what the right thing is to do to the right person at the right time. Every situation is different. There was one chassid who I had the privilege of knowing, the Mendel Futafas. I can't say I knew him, he was head and shoulders beyond everyone else. But the Rebbe gave him a blessing once that you should say the right thing to the right person at the right time. So one of his grandchildren, I asked one of his grandchildren, did you get the blessing too? Can you do the same thing? He says, we divided the inheritance. So I say the right thing to the wrong person at the wrong time. The other person says the right thing to the right person, but the wrong. So it's a great blessing to know when to do that. And you have to really know when and what. So what should you do? What's the best thing? What's the best thing? On average, what should your default be? Yes or no? So you would think it's good to have a perfect balance. It's good to have half yes, half time no. It's good to have a balance. But the Arizal says, right, the Arizal says you have to have more chesed, you have to have more kindness, you have to have more yes. It has to be more yes than no. That's what the world needs. Time now before Mashiach comes, he says there has to be an emphasis, there has to be a strengthening of the yes. There has to be more giving. And the psychologists, Lahavdil, they all agree. They say that a child needs in the home to hear 4 times more positive, 4 times more yes than no. It has to be quadruple amount of yes to raise a healthy child who's well adjusted and secure. They have to hear, and it's not easy to know if you're doing this, by the way. You might feel that with your child you're always yesing them, but ask your child, what does my dad do more? Does he do more yes, or does he do more no? The child knows better than you. There was once this
You can always say no.
a friend of mine, he went to this school, and he asked the kids an interesting question. He said, what do you think your mother is doing right now? What do you think your father is doing right now? And one kid says, my father's at work. One kid says, my mother's cooking. One kid says, unbelievable. Listen to this, David. David, one kid says, my mother is standing there by the window. She's waiting until I come home so that she could ask me how my day was. She's so excited to hear what I did today. Imagine that kid. Imagine how fortunate that kid is. Imagine how special that kid feels. That kid is empowered to be present in life and to be all there with it. He has such strength. So that's what children need. That's the 6 sfirot: chesed, kindness, giving. And the Rizal says in our time that we live in, there needs to be a lot more of that than gvura. Gvura is necessary too. You also have to be discerning. That's also something that God gave us, and there's time for everything. But overwhelmingly, there has to be more kindness than judgment, more giving than discernment. So God made all of these sfirot. He made all of these different characteristics. In Hebrew, the word sfirot comes from the word sipur. Sfirot and sipur are the same root. God created the story of creation depends upon these 6 energies. Sugar. Is sugar more chesed or more gvura? When I grew up, sugar was a good thing. Now all of a sudden it became like the devil, the angel of death. Whatever. But sugar is connected in Kabbalah, it's sweet, connected to chesed. Salt, on the other hand, it's connected to gvura. Salt is the opposite. Salt is not. What about milk? In the world, there are different things that you give them and you lose them when you give them. Some things you give and you don't lose, like wisdom. You know something, you share it with someone else, you don't lose. Giving love, you don't lose when you give love. In fact, milk is something that when it's given, when a mother milks her child, she nurses her child, she actually gets more milk because when she nurses her child, and she loses the milk if she doesn't give. The more she nurses, the more she gives. And the same is also with love in general, kindness in general, that the more kindness you exercise, the more kindness you feel. People think you love people think you give to who you love to. It's the opposite. You love who you give to. The more you give, the more you love. You go out of your way, and try this out at home, folks. Try this out at home. Try to give to someone in a way from yourself that's not so easy. You will peel a layer. You will come in touch with a part of yourself you did not know. I'm telling you, just do this. Give of yourself to help someone else out. Not just, give, like give. You'll discover another part of yourself you never knew about. And that's you. That's your deeper self. That's your neshama. That's who you are. So milk is associated with chesed, with kindness, whereas gevura, with that meat, which is hard, milk is a liquid, and liquid is something which causes things to be connected to each other, whereas meat is hard, and meat represents gvura. Meat right away is associated with slaughtering the meat. Meat is associated with desire. We think of meat, we think of like ravenous desire. Meat is associated more with gvura. So this will help us understand more this 6 hour thing. Let's backtrack for a second. If you have meat and milk that touch each other, it doesn't become non-kosher. It only becomes non-kosher if there is heat. Heat causes them to become attached to each other. Meat and milk, which are cooked together, become non-kosher. They just touch each other, they're not considered attached. What if you have one of them is hot and the other isn't? Let's say you have a hot piece of salami and you put a piece of cheese on the salami. Or you have a hot piece of cheese and you put it on top of a piece of cold salami. Well, how does it work? So there's an argument in the Talmud. What is more dominant? Is the bottom thing more dominant, and therefore goes with the bottom is hot or cold? Or is the top item more dominant, and therefore goes by if the top is hot or cold? The two opinions in the Talmud are called Rav and Shmuel. Rav says you always go by the top item. That's what should determine whether we consider this convergence of meat and milk to be considered a hot convergence, or we consider it a cold convergence because the bottom one is cold. So Shmuel says go by the bottom, Rav says go by the top. There's a similar scenario every time you eat. If you eat something, that thing that comes in your stomach is on the bottom. That's the dominant thing according to Shmuel. Shmuel says what you eat first is dominant, and therefore you should wait 6 hours after you have meat. Meat is associated with gvura, meat is associated with judgment. We said they have to be it has to be stronger kindness, more kindness than judgment. So therefore, if you eat meat first, you don't want the meat to be dominant. Therefore, you have to wait for 6 hours. 6 hours represent the 6 character traits until they all cool off. And then to let the chesed to be dominant, let the chesed, you can't have the gvura, the judgment, overwhelming the kindness. And therefore, you have to wait 6 hours after you have the meat before you have the milk. Some people think that 5 hours is correct. It's not true. It has to be a full 6 hours. Okay, getting back to the opinion of Rav. Rav says the opposite. Rav says the first thing you have first, that goes in the bottom of your stomach, that is not the dominant thing. The thing that goes in second is dominant. And therefore, according to Rav, it would seem you shouldn't have to wait 6 hours after you have meat. On the contrary, because the meat's on the bottom, it's not dominant. Let's go now back to so many halachas in Torah are understood upon this, but don't try this at home trying to figure out halacha by yourself, because there's so many other factors. It's the halacha is not like halacha is like medicine. You can't Google the answer to medical questions. You're just there's so many different variants that variables that make halacha what halacha is. So don't try this at home, folks. But for our purposes today, let's go back to the angels for a second. The halacha is like Shmuel. We follow the opinion of Shmuel. The bottom is dominant, and therefore we have to wait 6 hours after to have meat. You want to have the kindness to be dominant, and therefore, getting back to the angels. What should the angels have done after the angels ate the milk? It seems to be okay. You eat the meat right after. It's okay. The chesed is first. The chesed is supposed to be dominant. The milk is allowed to be dominant. But think about the angels again and the Jewish people and the angels and Moses. When God told Moses, I want to give the Torah to the Jewish people, and the angels said, don't give it to them. They're lousy. What did Moses respond to them? Moses said to the angels, God said to Moses, tell them why you deserve the Torah. I want you to hear, you're the lawyer for the Jewish people. I want you to prove why this property belongs to Jewish people. What did Moses respond? Moses said, hey, it says in the Torah, don't serve idols. Are you living among Gentiles who serve idols? You need to be told not to have idols. It says in the Torah, don't kill. Do you even want to kill? Do such a thing as murder exist in heaven? It says in the Torah, don't steal. That doesn't exist in heaven. It says in the Torah, I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. Have you ever been to Egypt? It says in the Torah, honor your father and mother. Do you have a father and mother? So all these things about that Moses was saying was emphasizing that Torah is all about downstairs. Torah is all about the bottom. The bottom, the earth, is most important. The angels were saying the most important thing is heaven. Just like they were of the opinion that Rav is correct, that the most important thing is what comes second, because the angels feel that the thing on top is more important, not just represented their spiritual, philosophical opinion that the heaven is more important than the earth. The Torah is a spiritual thing. We're spiritual beings. But Moses told them, you got it all wrong. The only reason why God wants to give us the Torah is precisely because we're physical, precisely because, you know what this means to us? We have a lot, everyone knows themselves, all their shortcomings. Everyone knows themselves better than anybody else, their shortcomings. You would think the Torah doesn't belong to me because of all the things that I do wrong. I know all the things I do wrong, so I shouldn't get the Torah. But Moses was saying the exact opposite. You know why God giving you the Torah? You know what the Torah is meant for? The Torah is meant specifically for you because of your shortcomings. A friend of mine, studying yeshiva with, his name is Rabbi Svardovich. He was in Belgium. He went with his wife to give out matzah before Passover at some little town by the ocean, to give out matzah to people over there. And there's one Holocaust survivor they meet over there, and she's all teary. She takes the matzah, she's all teary, she tells them the following story. Not just a story. She actually proves the story. I'll tell you in a second. It's a crazy story. She, after the Holocaust, left Judaism. She came from a religious home. She left Judaism completely. And she married someone who's also Jewish, who also came from a religious home, who also left Judaism completely. They had 2 children, 2 boys, who married non-Jewish women, and they have non-Jewish grandchildren. One day, her husband's going to work. She says to her husband, I want to come with you to work. She comes with her husband. They pass by in the street, this marketplace, and in this marketplace there are women standing by tables who are selling different things. Coats, trinkets, whatever they're selling. And they're all standing, she notices, they're all standing on top of books. In order to, for whatever reason, for them to present their wares, they want to be higher up, so they're all standing on top of books. And, hey, here, come over and try some of these, whatever, right? She goes a little closer, and she notices, what are they standing really on?
Torah.
They're standing on Gemaras. They're standing on books of Talmud. So she tells her husband, I want to buy a coat. Okay, right. She buys a coat, a huge coat. The sleeves are too big. Everything's too big. A wide coat, a crazy big coat.
Books of what?
Talmud, the Torah.
Talmud.
So her husband's like, "Why want to buy? I want to buy this coat. Okay, I'll buy you the coat." She buys this crazy big coat. Go figure, why, whatever. Who knows why? Then she goes to her husband and says, "Listen, I want you to go over to that lady selling this stuff. Ask her about different things she's selling. Ask her in a way that she'll have to go off of those books. Hey, ma'am, what's this thing you got over there? I want to see this book. What price is that? What? She goes off. She takes the books of Talmud. She puts it in the coat. Then they go to the next lady. Same thing. Hey, can I ask you a question about this thing? She goes off the book. She stuffs the books in her coat. She managed to get 30 books of Talmud because it bothered her. She's not religious at all. She doesn't. It would seem she doesn't care about this stuff. She married none, and yet she saw them stepping in books of Talmud. It touched her to the very core of her soul, and she couldn't go on with her day. This is who I am. When God gave us the Torah, you know what God said? God said, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. I am your God. I'm your God. God says, the word Anochi, the word I in Hebrew, Anochi, is an acronym for 4 words. I, my soul, I wrote it and gave it. Ana nafshik tavit yahavit. When God gave us the Torah, He gave us His very core, and He became one with us. So you, as a Jew, you're one with God. And therefore, it's not that you have shortcomings, and despite your shortcomings, God wants to give you the Torah anyways. It's exactly the opposite. God gave us the Torah. He wants us in this world to make a Torah a home for Him. He didn't give it to the angels. The angels got it all wrong. The whole point of Torah is that God wants Mashiach to come. What's Mashiach about? Elevating the world. So that Yankel, or Isaac, or myself, or Jay, we're going to go today, we're going to take a Perrier, and we'll say, Bracha Sha'akol Yabivaro, and elevate and make that space and that spot in time and history a holy spot and place. That's what it's about. So this is what the Torah is about. It's about the bottom, about the lower, about the being elevated. And that is why the response to the angels, why they want the Torah, why they don't deserve the Torah, is because they ate the milk before the meat. God told the angels, hey, you guys are eating the milk before the meat, that's only okay if you say that the bottom is more important. But if you say the top is more important, then you should wait 6 hours. And therefore, bottom line is, my friends, Hashem should bless us all to receive the Torah with joy and inspiration, with simcha to livav, and we should realize that God means me, and God means now, and God means here, wherever we are, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference. You remember our financial agreement? Financial agreement, remember? Imagine I told you I have a great deal for you on Monday morning, 11 o'clock. Would you think would you be there? A great deal, like the best deal you ever did in your life. There's no better deal you're going to find than coming 11 o'clock to get the Torah. There's no better deal. Big stuff. Big stuff. Chaim l'chaim. Shavuot.